Hello, my name is Dan Schmitt. I do a weekly television show called Team Chicago Challenge. The website is teamchicago.tv. Teamchicago.tv. We're doing some old stuff. Talked to Dale Walksler. We're in Glenview, Illinois. This is the site of Lee Hartung's. It is a museum back here. He's been collecting for 60 years. We're going to look at some great old motorcycles right here, a northwest suburb of Chicago.
Lee Hartung collected a lot of things, no doubt about it. This is Friday. The auction is Saturday and Sunday. You can come in and look at the different items. He had maybe the largest license plate collection in the entire world. Cars inside, outside, everything was on display, lotted out so that people could begin bidding. The bidding was going to take place on Saturday and Sunday. So I was in here for the early look. Got pedal cars, a couple of T-Birds in the back, and some great old motorcycles. And lucky for me, I ran into my old friend Dale Walksler from Wheels Through Time Motorcycle Museum. The museum's in Maggie Valley, North Carolina. Check it out sometime, wheelsthroughtime.com. But Dale's going to tell us about a few of these motorcycles in the Hartung collection as we look at the auction area the day before the big auction.
Probably Lee's favorite motorcycle, one he was most proud of, is the 1926 Henderson Deluxe, the Glenview Fire Department bike, done in red. And of course, this machine sat on the ground for many, many years. Lee often told me he used to start and run and ride this bike, which I certainly believed. The real testament to that was when the bike came out of the building, I added some gasoline to it, checked the plugs, put a little oil in the cylinders. The bike fired right up. Tires are good. Transmission works great, runs and drives. Pretty amazing motorcycle. Another Chicago product, the Sears Motorcycle, built right here in Chicago. It's kind of a component-built bike. It used what is called a Spacky engine, offered through the Sears catalog, I believe from 1911 to 1914. It's a chain drive model. It's completely original paint. Totally amazing. A machine like this to survive for this many years. Now, I did not try to start or run this motorcycle, although I do believe within an hour, maybe 2 hours max, this bike would be in operational condition. One of the things that keeps an old bike like this from being started is the fact you have to pedal start it to make it run. And with the condition of the tires being flat, you're unable to do the pedal start. Therefore, trying to start the bike would cause more damage than it would good.
Outside, we're looking at this 1942 BSA 500 single. It sold for $7,475. You could buy these back in the 1960s in a crate for $200. My good friend Hud at a Cycle World had one running, and he used to ride it around the neighborhood. A good bike and a good amount of money for this war surplus motorcycle. And now we're going to talk to my dear friend, Kris, TigerLady, as she tells us about Lee.
The building that this stuff was in is quite huge, and stuff was just piled up to the ceiling, hanging from the ceiling, hanging from the walls. He had cars that had, like if you can imagine, just stuff piled on the hoods of cars up like 10, 15, 20 feet sometimes. He had the museum open on Saturdays and Sundays, I believe, at some point. I think like the last 10, 15 years or so. And it was free to the public, but if he was not in the mood, he would just close down for the day, or he'd tell you, not open, go away. And it was, you paid a small, if you wanted to make a contribution, you could too.
Thank you, Kris. Lee had a lot of stuff. Where else could you find 4 wagon wheels, comic books, engines, Model A Fords? He had about 25 of them. And let's go back and talk with my good friend, Dale Walksler.
You know, how a Pope made in Westfield, Massachusetts made it into Lee's barn has always amazed me. However, he did tell me the story on where he found it and how he found it. The bike was actually in a closet in Chicago, and it was sitting vertically in the closet for storage purposes. The machine itself, we think it's around a 12 or a 13 Pope, not exactly sure of exactly what year, but in incredible original condition. You might note the seat has got Pope embossed in the seat, as well as the handlebar mounted toolbox. Truly a magnificent original bike. And by the way, added some gas to this one, it runs like brand new. You know, Lee's 1912 Harley has been the envy of many people here at the auction. It still has the original belt for its belt drive system. The original gray paint, of course, the 12 Harley, known as the Silent Gray Fellow, is certainly a favorite. It's going to be interesting to see how many people bid on the 1912 Harley. I might also, Matt, add that with a little bit of gasoline and an auxiliary battery, this bike fired up in about a half a pedal, and a real testament to what Lee always said, and that is, I wrote everything into that building. You know, the Flying Merkel to my left was certainly a bike that Lee was very proud of, but at the same point, this bike caused Lee a huge amount of agony and grief, for everybody that walked into Lee's building always said, "What do you want for the Merkel?" And, you know, that really kind of infuriated Lee, because there's so much more to look at in Lee's collection than a Flying Merkel. So the amount of time that people spent trying to pry this motorcycle out of Lee caused him a lot of angst in his life. It was actually sitting on the upstairs shelf with about 7 other rare motorcycles, and the Flying Merkel, made in Middletown, Ohio, truly one of the milestone marks in America. The ball bearing engine, the beautiful orange paint with the great Flying Merkel decal, really a great bike.
A couple of the very expensive cars that were auctioned off include this 1950s Edwards, the sports car. Got a Jaguar engine in it. Rumored to be a Pebble Beach winner, sold for $143,000. And rumor has it that Jay Leno offered Lee a blank check for this car. The other car was a BMW Verita that went for $195,500. This 1950s, 1940s sports car built by BMW. But the most expensive item in the auction was that 1913 Flying Merkel at $201,000. There was a look at a few more of the motorcycles. Thanks to Kris TigerLady. That's KrisTigerLady.com, and Dale Walksler, WheelsTrueTime.com. And don't forget the 2 websites, TeamChicago.tv and my political website at WalkWithDan.com. And that's it from Glenview, Illinois.